the moment that you hear, on the Coast Guard call that the man, he pauses, he's having a hard time even articulating that Angela's passed away. And the room, the gasp that you felt, and we all kind of looked at each other like, oh my gosh. And it was just overwhelming how people were so moved by Angela as a figure in time.
It's a capability that we share as humans to be able.
Soraya, as a filmmaker, a lot of the times documentarians kind of stay on the sidelines, and they don't, it's to kind of remain unbiased. They stay on the sidelines. They don't insert themselves into the narrative. Were you apprehensive about, inserting yourself into the story?
Oh, absolutely. There was zero part of me that planned to be in the film nor wanted to be in the film, but it became inevitable. Something we knew about the film that we wanted to do from the minute almost I met Angela and was starting to comprehend this insane life story of what she went through was that we knew we were going to do the 2020 row in real time and then piece together major emotional markers of her life throughout that. And then after she passed away, everything was an unknown after that. And it was through so much trial and error and collaboration that we really understood we needed to ground the film in ultimately a love story of Angela's love, of Deb's love for Angela and the sacrifice that they made together, and just honoring a promise to finish what you start regardless, what happens along the way.
Deb, this is such a personal story, for you. I'm sure you've seen this plenty of times. What are some of the most memorable reactions you've been getting?
I think that the most exciting thing is when people come up to me afterwards and say, I was having a really bad year. I lost my house. I lost my job. I lost everything, but I really feel like I can do it. I still think I can do it. And that's exactly what Angela wanted people to know, is that you can live your dreams. You just got to do it. You got to figure out how to make it work, and don't have doubts. Just go forth 100%.
The film, takes place during a time of probably a lot of us in this room don't want to kind of relive during COVID. What kind of decisions or conversations were had including COVID, including the pandemic? Amanda, Tina, if you want to talk about that, or Nicholas?
I think the decision to sort of include how much of COVID was going to play a part in this story, it was necessitated by Angela's choice to leave at the early days of the pandemic. It was a real concern how it was going to affect somebody who, was in a wheelchair. Angela was particularly eager to leave at that point in time. And so as far as including that within the story, it was something that just sort of came about just based on the timeline.
Making a documentary, you never know. I'm guessing it's kind of like you're building a plane while it's flying. How did you decide what kind of narrative you wanted to tell with the footage that you had?
When I met Soraya, it was about a year after after Angela had passed, and Deb and her had both kind of taken some time to process all of it because nobody expected her to not make it. She had filmed a long, extended interview with Angela before she left, and it was beautifully shot. It told the whole story incredibly well. And so then it was like a question of, okay, can we tell this story with what we have? Then it became, what is the story about? And we realized that it was this love story between Deb and Angela. Ultimately, we used almost 10 years of archival with the same boat with Angela, which ends up being 6 minutes of the actual film, and the rest of it is to a T how it happened. So we kind of decided that it was still absolutely worth telling this story in the best way possible. We're very proud of that, and at the end we feel like we did justice to Angela's story, and to have Deb's support and to see it and think, yeah, we did it.
The documentary is interesting because it is one of those rare documentaries where the protagonist died during the production. What kept your team just going forward? What was the North Star for y'all? If anyone, whoever wants to answer.
Tina, you want to take this one?
The North Star is telling Angela's story and making sure stories like this are heard. I think the craziest component of all of this is how unknown Angela's story is, and yet her obituary was in the New York Times. And so, coming from a women's sports entertainment company, our the spirit of that is always to tell untold stories. Women's sports stories remain frequently untold, and Angela's story goes so far beyond sports. And so I think the North Star was always a matter of just making sure we push forward, we tell those untold stories, whether they are about people that we know or don't know, and gathering this team you see on stage, gathering all the pieces of a puzzle to build a team that says, like, this is a story worthy of telling is the goal in many ways, and making sure people see it.
What was it like watching the movie for the first time with an audience?
That's an interesting question, because it was actually in Austin, Texas, with an all veterans audience, and we didn't know how it was. I was like, oh, is it a little? We just didn't know how it was going to land. I was like, are gay people okay? Like, what's going on? And it was one of the most moving experiences that we all felt the moment that you hear, on the Coast Guard call that the man, he pauses. He's having a hard time even articulating that Angela has passed away. And the room, the gasp that you felt, and we all kind of looked at each other like, oh my gosh. And yeah, it was just overwhelming how people were so moved by Angela as a figure in time, and that her identity transcended any kind of political ideology or anything. She was just a human being that we all could get behind. It was so, we all wanted her to succeed. You're rooting for her, and I thought that was such a wonderful moment of shared humanity in the room. And there was actually a dad who came up to me afterwards, and he was sobbing, and he said, my daughter is gay, and she just came out to me a couple weeks ago, and he's like, I'm so glad we get to share this film together. And I was like, oh my God. How about for you? What was it like?
Well, I was worried that people that didn't know Angela, if they would get to know her from the film. And I just didn't know how that would play. So the first time when people got it, it was like, that's it. It worked. Because I think the film is brilliant, actually. That's the biggest thing, is that I thought, the people that will know her will be like, oh, Angela. And the people that don't know her will be like, but it wasn't that way at all.